Can you all see my screen? Okay, so let me start. The organizers would like to request that all participants please keep yourselves muted when the session is ongoing, as that could be a distraction for everyone. Also, please use the raise hand function when you want to talk and wait to be called upon. Next, utilize the chat box, be as creative and as open as possible. However, that leads me to the last rule: do not share any personal information in the chat box. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoy and benefit from this event.
All right, thank you, Alia. I'll be taking over now. Hi, everyone. My name is Aisha and I am a young leader from Maldives. And I'm going to be facilitating this event with Alia. So this year in 2021, we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of WAG's flagship campaign, Stop the Violence. And it is also the 30th anniversary of the global 16 Days campaign. I've been a part of Stop the Violence campaign for quite a while, and I'm really excited to be facilitating this event. And I'm really glad to have this session in my hands. I've been motivated to talk about this issue on an international and national level. So in today's session, we want to focus on supporting member organizations and girls in creating safe and brave spaces for our 4.2 million members in the region. The safeguarding policy is one that is in constant motion in the MOs, and it's developing right now. However, in addition to that, we also want to highlight psychological first aid, as it's a huge thing. And therefore, we would like to use this opportunity, use this session to raise awareness of psychological first aid and increase the member organizations that are engaged in this topic. We also want more people to discover and understand the importance of psychological first aid and how and where to seek support when needed. And with that, I hope this session is helpful to you all. And as I talk about safe and brave space, I would like to pass the floor to my sister guide, Aura, from Maldives, from Malaysia, sorry.
Thank you, Noreen. Hi, everyone. My name is Alia, and I'll be facilitating the Brave and Safe Space segment. Let me just share my screen again. Again, can you all see my screen?
Yes, Alia.
Okay, so in order to make this Zoom a brave and safe space, we need to ensure some rules are in place. So can everyone please scan the QR code or click the link that is going to be in the chat or is in the chat, or go to ahaslides.com and put /16 days 2021. Let's just wait for all to join. More people are joining. Okay, so you can still join. We'll start. Okay, so can everyone put what you think can make this a brave and safe space? Your answers will be marked as anonymous, so feel free to say from your heart. I'll also be reading some responses out loud. I already see so many answers coming up. So I see that someone has written respect each other. I think that's like a very good response. Also, be kind to others. Yes, I agree with that. I see there's a lot of people saying that respect each other's, and I think that's very important. Someone also feels that we need to be confident and follow the rules. I think that's a very good response. And we have to speak up and you have to voice out. Oh yeah, and we have to also listen to the leaders. So yeah, care for each other, leadership. There's a lot of good answers, and I really like that. You all have very good answers. Yeah, I see there's a lot of people putting respect each other. Think before you speak, respond, was it? Support each other. I see also a lot of people saying to be confident. Yeah. Listen to others. There's a lot of things quite similar to each other, but all of these answers are very good. We'll just wait for a few more minutes, then I can move on to the next slide so other people can put their answers. Be yourself and happy. Yes. Yeah, so there's a lot of people saying that be kind. So yeah, we have to be very kind to others. We cannot share, as what I said in the first part, no sharing personal information in the chat, and also we have to speak out, but not too much that we're going to see something offensive to another person. Care for each other. Think before you share. That's also very important. I think there's a lot of answers already, so I'll move to the next slide. Yeah, that's a lot of nice answers. Thank you all for joining. So all that useful input is all that will make our session a brave and safe space where no one feels triggered or traumatized by this webinar, where we all feel free to speak, yet conscious of our colleagues' feelings and emotions. We hope that we can all adhere to these rules so that this brave and safe space can be maintained. Without further ado, I will now pass the mic to Noreen again for the next plot. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Alia. That was a great session, and we got to see so many people's opinions about how to create a safer space. Now I'll be passing the floor on to Pacita Dechavez Fortin, or otherwise known as Miss Bing, and she is a national consultant and lead of psychosocial support team of the ILOUN Women Safe and Fair Philippines project. The team provides free, confidential, and online psychological first aid and psychosocial support services to women migrant workers subject and risk to violence. She is also the regional group leader of United Registered Social Workers in NCR, leading about 100 social workers in Metro Manila in extending free online psychosocial support to those affected by COVID-19. She is an assistant professor in Miriam College in Quezon City, serving as the current chair of Department of Social Work and teaching for more than 10 years. And with that, I think she's the most capable to teach us about psychological first aid, right? So let's hear what she has to say. Pacita, on to you.
Thank you so much, Noreen, and thank you, World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, for this invitation and for the opportunity to share the work that I do as a social worker for the past 20 years, and also for the work that I've been doing and I've done during the time of the pandemic. I'm very happy to be here and to have this conversation with you, and in particular to talk about psychological first aid. Okay, so welcome everyone. Anyone who has heard about psychological first aid before today? You may raise your hand or your... Show a thumb up sign. Anyone? Or is this something new? Okay. Okay. So this is an introduction. My presentation is an introduction to psychological first aid. So as mentioned, I have been working as a lead social worker of the psychosocial support team of the UN Women Philippines Safe and Fair Project. So we've been extending psychosocial support services to women migrant workers who have been at risk and are subjected to violence, particularly during this time of the pandemic. So we all know that the COVID pandemic has caused a lot of people to experience stress and worry. And we all know that the COVID-19 pandemic has affected 223 countries globally. And as of a few days ago, the cases has already reached 263.5 million, 5.2 million deaths. And right now, those have already received, in terms of the doses that were administered, is already reached 7.8 billion. So we're hoping that, getting the vaccine would also help us in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. Some of you may have experiences or your family members who observe common responses of people affected by the pandemic, either directly or indirectly. So at some point in our lives during this time of the pandemic, we may have experienced fear of falling ill and even dying, the fear of losing loved ones and feeling powerless in protecting them from the virus. The fear of being socially excluded or placed in quarantine far from your loved ones because of being associated with the disease. So this was experienced particularly by the frontliners, the medical personnel has been helping people deal with the pandemic. Avoiding medical help or going to health facilities or hospitals due to fear of becoming infected while in care. So even if you want to go to the hospital, you would really hesitate whether you would want to be confined because for fear that you may get infected while in the hospital. Fear of being separated from loved ones and caregivers due to quarantine. Feelings of helplessness, boredom, loneliness, and depression due to being isolated. Could you still remember when at the onset of the pandemic, when we experienced lockdown, maybe different experiences in different countries. At some point, you may have experienced this, particularly the first few weeks, first few months of the pandemic, as we're trying to grapple with the impact of the pandemic. We may have experienced this. For young people like yourself, maybe you're able to go out and meet with your friends, play outside, because of the pandemic and the restrictions imposed. Fear of losing livelihoods, while for parents, not being able to work during isolation, and the fear of being dismissed from work. So maybe you've seen this experience, by your parents or some of your family members. So during the pandemic, there been an increase in experience of either depression, anxiety, stress due to the pandemic. So there's actually a scale. It's a self-administered scale. It's a mental health questionnaire that would indicate severity of certain behavioral and emotional symptoms correlated with anxious and depressive disorder and with stress. So symptoms or signs of depression, anxiety, stress. So it's 21 items. That's why it's called DAS-21. And it takes around 5 minutes to complete. So basically, the main instruction is to answer what you're currently experiencing and what have you experienced in the past week. So there's a website. I have requested someone to post it. I've requested Tommy to post it in the chat box if you'd like to try it. Very easy to accomplish. And the scores, once you've answered, So there will be a score that will be shown, no, automatic calculated in this if you use the DAS21 in this in this site, no. So the score could be normal, mild, moderate, severe, and extremely severe. So it is important that this DAS21 is not a diagnostic tool, you know. It should be followed by a specialist evaluation if there's a suspicion of a mental disorder that persists, no. So if, for example, you experience, particularly if it's severe or extremely severe, automatically you would need to be referred to a mental health professional. In my experience during the pandemic, I've talked with mostly, because in the Philippines, the migrant workers or the overseas workers who come home, when they arrived at the airport, they will be provided with an information to take, you know, the depression, anxiety, stress scale. And I have received referrals, to do psychological first aid for those who had moderate or the result is moderate, no. So you could try it out. But also in this presentation, I'd like to also show to you and ask you, you know, in the past week, how have you been? So do you find it hard to wind down? Do you tend to overreact to situations? Do you feel that you've been using a lot of nervous energy? You feel agitated, you know, troubled, nervous. You found it difficult to relax. You're intolerant of anything. You're easily irritable. You're oversensitive. These are signs indicating of stress. Okay. How have you been in the past week? Have you been aware of dryness in your mouth? Experience trembling, like maybe in your hands, or you're worried about situations in which you might panic and make a fool of yourself. You felt you're close to panic. You're aware of, you know, the fast beating of your heart, and you feel scared without any good reason. Now, if you felt any of this, you may be experiencing anxiety. So these are signs and symptoms of anxiety. What about this one? How have you been in the past week? Have you felt that you couldn't seem to experience any positive feeling at all? You found it difficult to work up the initiative to do things? Felt that you had nothing to look forward to? You feel downhearted and blue? Or feeling lonely and can understand why you're feeling that way. You're unable to become enthusiastic about anything, you just lost motivation to do the things that you used to enjoy. You have this feeling that you aren't worthy, you aren't valued, you aren't appreciated, and you feel that life is meaningless. No? So these are some signs and symptoms of depression. No? So these are also the questions or the statements in the DAS21 if you answer to it. And as I said, it will show you in the end your score of what is your like state. No, it's, as I said, it's not a clinical diagnosis. You would need to have a professional diagnose you if you have any of this. No, but it somehow it gives you some idea on how you are. Okay, so. Okay, so what is psychological first aid, no? And how do we do it? What is it for? How could we do this during this time of the pandemic? So psychological first aid is a compassionate and supportive presence designed to ease acute distress and assess the need for continued mental health care. So being present, providing that caring presence, no, for someone who is in stress or distress. Okay, so psychological first aid is a first line psychosocial support for people affected by crisis events. So there are different events now that could trigger different psychological states like anxiety, extreme fear. So large scale events such as natural disasters, war and terrorist attacks, disease outbreaks, displacement of people and communities, or it could also be individual events that affect one or few people, such as accidents, any forms of violence, assault, etc. And these have physical and social and emotional consequences for those affected. So PFA was first coined in the 1940s, used in the context of disasters and other modern day crises and emergencies. And now in the context of pandemic, really has been most useful form of intervention, first line form of psychosocial intervention. So psychological first aid is a humane, supportive response to a fellow human being who is suffering and who may need support. No? So it's as simple as that. So Red Cross defines it as PFA involving caring about a person in distress, paying attention to their reactions, active listening, and giving practical help. It is a way of supporting and connecting someone to the help that they need. Okay, so it's being present, it's listening, providing a caring presence, and linking or connecting them to the help that they may need. Okay. If you have any questions at some point while I'm doing the discussion, feel free to post in the chat box and I will respond to you during the open forum. Okay. So psychological first aid has three principles. So it's look, listen, and link. So 3L, look, listen, link. Okay. Later, we'll discuss in more details these three principles. Okay, so just an overview. So doing PFA would involve preparation before you do the actual PFA. So learning about the crisis event. So in our case, about the pandemic, or maybe if you're providing assistance or intervention or service to women and girls who may have experienced any form of violence. So understanding about that, learning about available services and support, because as mentioned earlier, PFA would involve connecting them to the service and the support. So it's like medical first aid, PFA is, it's basic, it's an immediate support that you provide, oftentimes immediately after a crisis event has occurred. So you would need other services and support where you could do what we refer to as referrals. Learn about safety and security concerns. So it's also very important that you as a provider must know what are the risks when you do PFA. Okay, so what are these principles? So look, so it's about observing for safety, looking out for people with obvious urgent basic needs. So in the context of disaster in particular, observing people with serious distress reactions. So it's basically looking for signs of distress, and what are the immediate and urgent needs. Listening, making contact with people who may need support, asking about their needs, and listening to them and helping them feel. And then linking is connecting them with the services. Will also include giving them information and helping them cope with problems. So these are the principles, and these are the actions involved when you provide PFA. Okay. Who can provide PFA? Every one of us can provide PFA. All of you who are here in this call and listening, tuning into Facebook, everyone can provide PFA. Volunteers, first responders in times of disasters or emergencies, and members of the general public can provide PFA. It's not only something that professionals can offer, like psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers like myself. So everyone could do PFA. But what are the skills of a PFA provider? So there are also skills that you have to demonstrate. One is active listening. You must be able to listen and be there for the person you're trying to provide some form of assistance, some psychological first aid. Giving help without judgment. No to victim blaming. You don't blame the person for what has happened to them. So help without judgment. Your role is to provide them with this caring, supportive presence while this person is in acute distress. Calming someone in distress, calm them down. It may involve bringing them to a safer place, and so that they can calm down. Dealing with someone's immediate needs, so identifying most immediate needs, like would they need water, would they need medical attention, and therefore would need to be referred, etc. Okay, so these are some of the basic skills that you would need as a provider. Do you think this is something that you could do? Okay, I hope these are skills that you could demonstrate. Okay, so when do you provide PFA? After a crisis event, during or shortly after a crisis. So that's when you provide PFA. But it's also to keep in mind that someone may also need PFA even weeks, months, or even years after an event. People react differently to crisis situations. And for some, so people react differently. Some would be crying, someone would, but some would be just stoic, It's as if they don't have any reaction. And then at some point, when they remember what happened, then that is when they would really feel like what happened to them, what they feel about what happened, And in particular, if, for example, there may be new challenges or similar situations that happen now, or that they've been reminded of the crisis, such as anniversary. So these are critical times when the person may also need psychological first aid. So where do you provide PFA? So anywhere safe and comfortable for the provider and the person in distress. So a quiet and calming place. For sensitive situations, like for someone who is disclosing about an experience of abuse. So a private, secure place would be needed to ensure privacy and confidentiality. Right now, during the pandemic, we also do remote delivery, so use of phone, use of online platforms like Zoom, or through calls, WhatsApp, or mobile phone. So these are also being used now in providing psychological first aid. So who needs PFA? Anyone in distress could be provided, could benefit from PFA. Those going through personal crisis, including social or health challenges. So it's applicable anytime if you encounter someone who may need it, and those affected by disasters, conflict, violence, and forced migration, and now because of the pandemic, any one of us may benefit from psychological first aid. That is why discussions, conversations such as this very, very important, because we need PFA providers. So remember, people react in different ways and at different times to crisis. So not everyone wants or needs PFA. So we cannot be intrusive. We cannot be imposing. If a person would want PFA, so it has to be non-intrusive. They would be okay that you would be there to extend some form of assistance to them. Seeing or hearing something frightening can lead to distress. So okay, and some people can manage on their own and do not need help. So even if you want to provide PFA, if the person would not want to receive it, then it's okay. Because some people can manage, and would not want to be helped. Okay, you have to respect it. But it's important that there may be situations when someone needs much more advanced support than PFA alone. So for example, those with serious life-threatening injuries who need emergency medical care, people are so upset that they cannot care for themselves or their children, people who may hurt themselves or may hurt others. So as a PFA provider, you should know your limits, and you have to get help from others, such as a medical person if they're available, colleagues or other people in the area, local authorities or community and religious leaders. So this network of support, where you could seek further help when you do PFA is very, very important. So people who likely need special attention to be safe to access these services could be children and adolescents, now especially those separated from caregivers, people with health conditions and disability, those who are non-mobile, who have chronic illness, hearing or visual impairments, or severe mental disorders, elderly people, pregnant or nursing women, or people at risk of discrimination or violence. No? So why PFA? Because studies have shown that people do better over the long term if they feel safe, connected to others, calm, and hopeful. You know, imagine that you are experiencing this acute stress and someone would be there with you in that moment. How would you feel? No? You won't feel so alone. You know that there's someone from whom you could draw support from in that particular moment. Have access to social and physical and emotional support, and regain a sense of control by being able to help themselves. No? So having that person or having that someone and knowing that they can provide support and help for you could help you, you know, feel that things will be okay. You know, I would have someone with me rather than when you are alone. Okay. So also, we do psychological first aid because we want to promote psychosocial well-being and resilience of those affected by crisis situations, including COVID-19, and also to prevent mental illness. In the course of my work as a social worker, we really want to help people who are experiencing, you know, stress, anxiety, depression, because we want to prevent, for example, incidences of suicide. So it's also important to take note of these warning signs of suicide. No, I've handled several cases of suicide, and there are warning signs. No, like talking about killing themselves, also the behavior. Changes in drastic changes in the behavior, and also the mood. No, so depression is there, humiliation, anxiety. So we want to prevent mental illness. No, and so as mentioned earlier, there are 3 action principles in providing psychological first aid. So look, listen, and link. Okay. Let's keep that in mind. 3L. Look, listen, and link. Okay. How do we go about it? No. So first is to look. So look for information on what has happened and is happening. Who needs help? What are the risks, safety, and security? Are there any physical injuries? What are the immediate basic practical needs? And what are the emotional reactions? So when you look for the current situation, who seeks support, who may need help, what are the risks, what are the needs, and what are expected emotional reactions. So how do you initiate providing psychological first aid? How do you open a conversation and listen for needs? So I'm an approach, and how may I help you? You can introduce yourself. My name is Pacita. I am a social worker. I'm affiliated with this volunteering organization named, okay. And then may also ask your name, so I know what to call you, no? Or maybe if you've observed someone, no, and you would want to initiate a conversation with a person, there seems to be a lot on your mind, or maybe if a behavior that you've seen that they've changed because you know this person. I've noticed that you've been very quiet these past weeks. Are you okay? Seems, you know, so doing that, no. What are the most important issues I can help you with? No, so creating this space where the other person receive the message that you are there, that you are present, and that you're willing to help and to listen for whatever they may be going through. Okay. So listening refers to how the helper approaches someone, how you introduce yourself, how you pay attention and listen actively. So you could say if they want to talk to you or not. No. So you could see if the person wants to talk to you or not. No. So if they feel that they don't want, they're not comfortable, it's all right. No, it's all right. The point is that you've offered because you've seen that seems that there's a need for it, no? And that you're willing to extend assistance. accepting others' feelings, no, for what they are and not judging them and not blaming them for these reactions, calming the person in distress, no, just simply like taking a deep breath, and these are important, no, or maybe offering a glass of water, so that they feel calm, no, asking about their needs and concerns, no, and helping the person in distress and finding solution to their immediate needs and problems. So when you listen with your eyes, giving the person your undivided attention, you're not busy with your phone, truly hearing their concern, and with caring, with your heart, with caring and showing respect to the other person. So it's also about listening to emotional and practical needs, like, would you tell me a bit about what worries you? No, I sense that there is something more on your mind. So these are some lines that you could use. Acknowledging their worries, fears, and concerns. For example, in the context of the pandemic, you could say it's a challenging situation. There's a lot of things happening, and we don't know about a virus, and it's kind of normal to react and be worried. The line, it's okay not to be okay. It's acknowledging that we are all in this together. What you tell me are common fears. Many are concerned about falling ill or spreading the virus to others, especially loved ones, etc. So these are some of the. So it's, when they share with you their worries or their fears, then you acknowledge and then affirm it. That these are valid concerns. And that it's all right. To feel this way. So how do you provide? Listening also involves referring to how the helper asks about needs, concerns, helping the person in distress find solutions to their immediate needs and problems. So, for example, if a person like keeps on ruminating or worrying, having this thought going over. So one of the suggestions you could take, maybe suggest limits, like following news on the media. For example, I would also suggest limiting the time following news on the media, such as twice a day, and avoid doing it before going to bed because it creates stress. Now, if you're talking to someone like, oh, I'm so stressed, I'm so worried, things like that, and you could suggest, okay? It's a difficult situation, and I do understand it's very challenging. Let's discuss if there's anything you can do to make the situation more tolerable. You can also ask the person, how have you been like coping with this, what you are experiencing? So it's exploring with them, what is already working for them, what have they been doing, to deal with what they are experiencing. It's affirming also their strengths as a person, and acknowledging the support that they already have. So there are also some techniques. For example, like this exercise. If you find your mind starting to spiral to worry, and you find yourself beginning to feel anxious and overwhelmed, you may try this one: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 of the 5 senses. Point out 5 things you can see. If you had more time, you could try this out. 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Just to disrupt, that thinking processes that creates this anxiety or stress or a sense of overwhelm. What else? Some tips. Coping with stress during the COVID. So it's okay not to be okay. So affirming the person. So talking to people you can trust, contacting your friends and family. I know some of you have been doing this or have done this. Limiting your worry and agitation by lessening the time you and your families in watching or listening to media that you perceive as upsetting. For example, watching the news with all these cases, could also be very upsetting and worrisome. So you may limit. And also being aware that not everything that you hear about the virus may be true. So you get access from reliable information. Not from not reliable information, because misinformation is also circulating. So you go to reliable information, your health ministry, World Health Organization, or the Red Cross. So really these reliable sources. Draw on skills you have used in the past. Going back, the things that you've gone through, How were you able to survive or all of this? No, so drawing on these skills could also help you cope with stress. If you stay at home, it's very important to maintain a healthy lifestyle, proper diet, sleep, exercise, and social contact with family and friends, even if it's remote. No, and dealing with your emotions in a healthy manner. And if you feel overwhelmed, talk to someone, a professional, a health worker or counselor, and seek the help as may be needed. No, for kids, no, how do you manage your anxiety, your child's anxiety about COVID-19 for parents? No, so it's important to create a routine, to listen to your child and to check in frequently how they are, looking for signs of anxiety, teaching them coping skills, focusing on controllable tasks. Here you can see washing hands, encouraging them to think positively, staying connected, with friends, even virtually. I know some find it very challenging. Now you really want to go out and have time, play or have this chit chat with your friends in person, but because of the restrictions, could be done virtually. And seek help, professional help if needed. If you think that it's required, it's appropriate. No, so the third L is link. Link is helping people access information, connect with loved ones and social support, tackling practical problems and accessing services and other. For example, in the work that I do, I work with women migrant workers, and one of the important tasks that I do is to make sure that they are connected with their loved ones and social support, because usually family is the one that people in need of help would go to, would seek for support. So this is a line that could be used. So it seems you read a lot on social media about the virus. Could you tell me more about where you get your information? Do you also visit the official websites? We have talked about how to stay in touch with friends abroad, which are great resources. Are there any practical issues you face that we haven't talked about? So these are some of the lines. As you do PFA, what may be needed, then you could you have your own lines now. Okay, so very important in the link action principle is having a directory of where you are going to do referrals. I've mentioned this, and here if you have safeguarding or child protection policy, this is usually a feature or a part of that. And I'm hoping that you have already crafted your safeguarding or child protection policy. Directory or information in the government, for example, for the Ministry of Social Services, Health, Children, Youth, Family, or whatever it's referred to in your respective country, or maybe way to contact hospitals for referrals, helplines, maybe schools, teachers, parents associations, non-government organizations. So these kinds of information are very important on the third L, the link, so that you could seek further support and be able to refer the person that you're providing PFA with. So I hope that you have this available, and if not, I strongly recommend that you consider that this be accessible information, very, very important, essential help that could be provided to those who needs it. Okay, so I'd like to share a bit with you about our helpline. You can see in my virtual background that that's our helpline. So anyone can call 24/7. We have it in WhatsApp. We have it in Viber. We also have our Facebook page, and we also have our website. Anyone can call us and we don't turn away. So even if this project is intended for women migrant workers and for their families, and also for frontliners who've been helping women migrant workers, we have received calls who are non-migrants. So it has, the helpline is really has become like for everyone. So whoever wants, I receive calls sometimes at 2 a.m. from 12, 14-year-old who can't sleep at all. So it's all right. So help is available and it's there. Okay. So we use helpline. So this is our helpline. We have lines for clients, and then we also have lines for our frontliners who would want to talk to us. No. So what are some guidelines when we do PFA? What are the principles that we also have to abide by, like ensuring safety, respect, dignity, rights, and the do no harm principle. No? So let's be honest and trustworthy, respect a person's right to make their own decisions, to be aware of and set aside your own biases and prejudices, So to avoid, the victim blaming or, imposing our biases and prejudice on those persons we've been helping, making clear to people that even if they refuse help now, they can still access in the future. Respecting privacy and keeping the person's story confidential, although there are limits to it. If they will harm themselves or they will harm people, then that's an acceptable breach of confidentiality. And you have to make that understood by people you are helping. No? Okay. Behaving appropriately according to the person's culture, age, and gender. For example, how appropriate it is to like touch. How appropriate would be the distance when you sit and talk to the other person. No, don't exploit your relationship as a helper. Don't ask the person for any money or favor for helping them. Don't make false promises or give false information. Do not exaggerate your skills. If you are unable to help the person, do the referrals, link them to where they can seek further help. Don't force help on people, and don't be intrusive or pushy. Don't pressure people to tell you their story. Don't share the person's story with others, and don't judge the person for their actions or feelings. So some good communication things not to say and do. Some of this already mentioned previously. Not to pressure someone to tell you their story, not to interrupt or rush them in telling their story, not giving your opinions of the person's situation, just listen to them. Don't touch the person if you're not sure if it's appropriate to do so. Don't judge what they have or haven't done or how they are feeling. Don't say, you shouldn't feel that way, or you should feel lucky you survived. Other people have more problems than what you're experiencing now. No, minimizing what they are going through. Don't make up things you don't know. Don't use too technical terms. Don't tell someone else's story. Don't talk about your own troubles, when you do your PFA. Don't give false promises or false reassurances. Don't feel you have to try to solve all the person's problems for them. Don't take away the person's strength and sense of being able to take care of themselves. As I said, respecting, affirming their own inner strength in dealing with what they are going through. So some practical self-care is also very important when you do PFA. So before you do PFA, are you ready to help? Are you connected with an organization or group for safety and coordination? Your WAGS is a very vast network of could provide you with the safe. So you already have this connection. During, how can you stay physically and emotionally healthy? So you have to be in tune with what you're feeling. How can you know your limits? No, so knowing your limits as well. How can you and your colleagues support one another? No, or you how do you seek support from other when you need it? No, for me, I would have to admit that at some point I stopped accepting suicide cases. I know I can't take it anymore, so I have to refer them to other counselors. I have to do my own self-care. No, and after, how can you take time to rest, recover, and reflect? No, so what PFA is not just a summary, not something only professionals can do, not professional counseling, not a clinical or psychiatric intervention. Although it could be part of a good clinical care, not a psychological debriefing. It's not asking people to analyze what happened and putting them into order. What happens, 1, 2, 3. No, it's not pressuring people to tell you their story or asking details how they feel or what happened. No, PFA is being a loving, caring, supportive presence to someone in distress, providing them with a calm presence, your loving and caring attention, providing them with information, so you have to have them handy, providing them with support, and then linking them to useful, helpful, appropriate resources. So, as I said, during this time of the pandemic, during a crisis, it's normal to feel sad, stressed, confused, scared. or angry during a crisis, it's very important to talk to people you trust, as friends, family, or to us, to PFA providers. Here, I'm showing to you, this is public information. I am a volunteer, a psychosocial, psychological first aid provider. I've been doing this as a volunteer work since the onset of the pandemic, so it's publicly available. If you search my name, then I've received several calls because they found me on the internet. You know? So, and I'm more than happy and willing to provide them with the support that they need. So keep in mind that we are all in this together, and we will get through this together. And I'm hoping that with the psychological first aid that, you know, WAGs and your respective member organization in different countries, this can help in your work, in your advocacy, to create brave and safe and brave spaces for women and girls. Thank you very much for this time, for this opportunity for a conversation. I look forward to your comments, your feedback on this particular topic that we've talked about. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pacita, for the informative session. Hi, it's me again, and I'll be moderating for the Q&A session. I'm sure everyone has learned a lot from today, and if you have any questions, you can raise up your virtual Zoom hand or type it in the Zoom chat. Feel free to go wild in the chat space. The first question is from Nurul Farahan, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, which reads, how to differentiate anxiety, depression, and stress? I found out the symptoms are quite similar. I would like to ask our speaker to answer, please. You're muted. Can you please unmute?
The question is, what is the difference? They like look, they seem to be like similar to each other. No, if you would notice earlier, you know, anxiety is somehow closely associated with certain physical, you know, it's manifested very much with certain physical manifestations, you know, dryness of the mouth, trembling, you know, fast beating of your heart, no, feeling scared with no reason, no. So you know that you have anxiety if you have this, no. Stress is more of, you know, your like emotional reactions, no. You find it very difficult to like relax. You tend to be easily irritable, no, irritable, you're oversensitive. Some people might find you very difficult to talk to. You don't want people to like talk to you, no. Could be, and then you're agitated. You're like, there's an energy like, no. So it's a symptom, it's a sign of stress, no. And depression is more of like, you know, having this this like dark cloud over your head. You don't want to get out of bed. You lack the motivation or the enjoyment of the things that you used to enjoy doing. It's difficult to work up, you know, having this initiative, and you just can't feel enthusiastic. And then you start, is my life still worth living, you know? And persistent, you know, yung depressive feelings. This is usually where, you know, onset of suicide could happen, no? So so these are how you would differentiate. And you know, even without, you know, these labels, you as a person, I think we have to, you know, learn how to attune with ourselves, you know. If you're not feeling okay, you know, Can you sense that, like, oh, I'm really like my usual self, and no. So these are also important indications, and that we have to be attuned with ourselves. I think one of the things that we've learned during the pandemic really is how do we care for ourselves? How do we more get in touch with what we are feeling? How are we feeling inside? you know so I hope that this is helpful, how you would differentiate these three.
Thank you so much for answering the question. I hope that answers the question. The next question is, we are starting a group for peer led uh, uh, physical, psychological first aid. Sorry. What would your number one advice for us would be?
One is to have an orientation like this. One is to get everyone trained, get everyone like have an orientation like this. And then maybe do some exercises. I would when I do workshops such as this, I would want to do role plays, and if there's time, I would ask them to like do a sort of a practicum. They'd like try it out with someone and then come back and tell us how the experience been like, what have they learned, what did they do well, in what ways would they be able to improve next time they do PFK. So first is to have orientation, maybe a training workshop where there will be role play, simulation, and maybe a practical practice of it on how it's being done, and then coming back and having sharing the experience, and then making sure that you have a continuing coaching and mentoring, or having a coach or a mentor to help you as you do this, as you offer this particular form of service. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you so much. Another question is that many people always tell the patients about their illness, which affects the patients a lot. How do we stop that?
How do we stop people telling other people that they should? Can you please repeat that one? Yeah, sorry.
Many people always tell the patients that have their problems about their illness, which affects the patients a lot. How do we stop that?
Okay. So maybe in some instances, this is a very concrete experience. I've talked particularly with young people, and why they would call our helpline or would call me through the number that I have on the internet, is that even their own family members would tell them that it's just your drama, like get over it, you're just trying to seek attention. No, I think people, and sadly some family members, even parents or siblings, who do this because they really don't understand about mental health and how it affects us. It's as if something that you could just like snap out of it. No, I saw in the chat box there's a question: um, for example, high levels of stresses, anxiety, and depression affect um, our thinking. It does change. I will post later on this a 4-minute video on how stress affect our brain. It does affect our brain. It does change certain chemicals in our body that then later on would lead you to get medication so that this get balanced and that you'd be able to function. No, so it's a serious matter that we have to talk about, and we all know that mental health is also something. Before the pandemic, it's something that there's a lot of stigma attached to it, and that has to change. Maybe WAGs and the different member organizations can do advocacy on this area, like removing the stigma from mental health issues, and really being having this doing PFA, basically being being able to provide this caring presence when someone is saying that I'm not feeling okay. I think I need someone to talk to. No? So it's about raising awareness, people's awareness about why psychological wellness or mental health care is very important. No, so so these experiences or situations of stress, anxiety, and depression could lead to more serious mental health issues, and we don't want that. You know, at worst, you would have situations of suicide, no, even of young people, and we really don't want that to happen. You know, the world will be missing a talent, you know, a gem maybe, you know, a genius maybe because of could be a mental health issue that they have experienced and wasn't provided with the help that they need. Okay, so
Okay.
let's advocate and share more information.
Yeah. This question is from Trisha. How does depression and anxiety affect our thinking? And what are the pros and cons for taking each of different each of the different medication options to treat depression?
Okay, I am not. I am a social worker. I am not a psychiatrist. I would leave it to the the psychiatrist to provide more information of this. But I'd like to um, do a statement on this because I've observed this as well, even in my own school, on how we deal with issues of mental health. I have shared with them that, you know what, when we talk to people who have been experiencing depression or anxiety, chronic anxiety or stress, um, it's because that they want someone to listen to them. They actually is seeking for social emotional connection with people. We have become so engrossed with technology that we have, you know, we lost it, you know, this human connection. And I was telling them that oftentimes we would look at mental health going immediately to medication, you know, get medication, but without really like tackling or responding to the social emotional issues associated why in the first place they have experiences. Of course, I know that there may be like physiological issues, no, that contribute to these states, no, but it's also important to look into the social emotional connections, you know, the relationship that we have. A lot of people are together, but they are lonely. They don't talk to each other. And also, we know that, for example, experiences of bullying is happening, violence in any form. It could be physical, psychological, or emotional. You know, you can see the wounds because it's invisible, but it cuts you inside. No? And sometimes we know about this, but we don't do anything about it. And I'm hoping that with us, with, you know, an understanding of psychological first aid, we would have, you know, the skill and the knowledge to at least, you know, deal or approach the person if we see someone may need help. As I said, this person may tell you in the end or may show you some indications that they don't want it, but letting this other person know that you're there, that you're willing to help, or if they don't want to talk to you, that you would have information that you could share with them so that they could get the help that they need, then that's something that could already be done. No? So you have to look into this, you know, how do we bring back all these human connections that is so vital to who we are as human persons. No? Maybe you also have to look into that aside from the medication. It helps, but this social, emotional dimension, psychological dimension have to be addressed as well.
Okay, thank you so much. This question is from Farida Rafiq. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Some people feel blank when they are to speak in public. Is it also a symptom of anxiety? Also, another question is, yeah, just yeah, that's the question.
Yes, could be, no, could be you're feeling anxious, and yeah, and you know, there's a positive stress and there's the negative stress, you know, the one that paralyzes you, but there's also a form of stress that you know, gives you like the motivation to do something, to perform, no? So there's a positive stress that help you to do things, you know, to be able to achieve things, and that there's also this stress that is associated with high levels of anxiety that like paralyzes you, and like you become frozen, no? So when that happens, you just, you know, you get in touch with the body, you know, and take a deep breath, no, walk, no, disrupt that thinking, you know, disrupt that negative, you know, that thinking, you know, that keeps going around and around, and then get in touch with the body. You could do something like this: drink water, stretch, you know, move your body, no? So yeah, and then do it like this, no? So get in touch with the body, you know. That helps, you know. These are also some exercises that I would share with some of my clients, you know, and then do deep breathing. Things like that. Okay.
Yeah, so this one's from Mia Gary. How to engage in a conversation with a PFA helpline. How to start the conversation.
Are you the one receiving the call, or are you the one calling? Are you the one calling?
Yeah.
You're the one calling. You just introduce yourself. For example, my name is Bing, and check first if it's you're calling the correct helpline. You know, is this the helpline of this and that? I have heard that you provide this kind of service, and I think I would like to avail of this particular service. Would it be all right to talk to you or to one of your counselors? So just introduce yourself. If you're at the other end of the line, for example, if someone calls me, then I would greet the person. I would usually smile, because when you smile, you know, the other person would actually like sense it. And I was like, good morning. My name is Pacita. My name is Bing Fortin. How may I help you? And then the other person will respond, okay, how would you like me to call you? Like that. And if if the other person hasn't shared anything, how they have heard about our helpline, then I would ask a little bit of that, and then ask them, how are you doing right now? If it's an issue of violence, I would make sure that they're in a safe place or a safe location, that it's safe for them to talk. Would she have enough time to talk to me? Is she's like, I only have like 3 minutes, so it has to be very quick. I would have to give her the information. This is the way you would be able to contact me. Please delete all a conversation that we may have. For example, if she has texted me, so I have to make sure that she is safe. You know, if it's like, you know, a situation of like violence. Also, if, for example, if it's the usual pandemic time, the person is, so I would ask, how are you doing? Have you been sleeping well? Have you been eating? How are you right now? Have you, you know, so things like that before we start our conversation, and for me to further explore the reason for the call. And then I would listen to why this person has called me. So that's basically the intro part. And at the end, I would, you know, like wrap up what we've talked about. You've shared with me this, and this is what we've agreed on. If there are any agreements on what needs to be done, and if the other person showed an indication that they'd like to call me again. So we usually agree, when can I expect a call from you? In some instances, the person would not commit any date or time, and I would say, that's okay, I'm just here. You send me a message and you let me know when you'd like to talk to me. I'm just here. And if there's anything during the time that, you know, we won't be talking, you need any concern, you have any concern, you know, you have my number, feel free to call me. And if, for example, I cannot immediately respond to you, I will get back to you as soon as I am able and receive your message. Okay, and then would there be anything else? And the other person said, Okay, and then end with quick checkout, like after we've talked, how are you feeling right now? And say, I'm feeling better. So don't leave the person like feeling like down or something. So check if the person is in a good place before you let them go. Okay, so then how are you feeling after we've talked? Oh, I feel better now. Okay, okay. Okay, that's it. And then you say, thank you, I'm just here. Okay, you take care of yourself. Bye-bye. Okay. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is the last question. Do children get depression?
Yes, everyone could get depressed, could get could start with a feeling of loneliness, aloneness, that no one's there for them. Everyone get to experience this. But if it continues for a long time, then this person may start questioning or asking, am I valuable? Am I needed? Am I important? And occupy, that thought keeps going in the mind. Eventually, the person doesn't want to go to school anymore, or start missing classes, doesn't want to study, doesn't want to play, isolate him or herself inside the room, doesn't want to anybody, any person in the family, doesn't want to join. Anyone could experience depression. And it's important that, that for parents to check in with children, and don't make technology as the new nanny or the new parent. No. Children do need your presence and your care, and making them feel that they are important, that they are loved, and that they are cared for. And so that when they grow up, when that they're able to join the world guide, the girl guides and the girl scout, that they would happily join girl guides and be a girl scout. So thank you so much. Would there be anything else? So would there be other questions?
No, I think that was the last question. Thank you so
Okay.
much for answering all the questions. Sorry to everyone who
Yep.
didn't had their questions answered. So thank you so much. Now I would like to pass the mic to Maya Tuana Basu. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. She's from Asia Pacific Regional Committee member. She is Asia. Yeah.
Thank you, Alia. Hello, everyone. Before I thank you, I would like to congratulate everyone for such a wonderful program, and special congratulations to the speaker of the program, Pacita from UN Women, for the presentation with full of information and inspiration to address minds and souls of people during and after the pandemics like COVID-19 and different kinds of natural disasters. Look, listen, and link. 3L is something that has struck my mind. Hope everyone in the call and watching us live through our Facebook page have learned about psychological first aid, PFA, the skills to support the needy people under any circumstances. This is a very important topic, but we rarely talk about it. Thank you so much, Pacita, for your information, for the skills you have tried to transport to our young minds, and for all your time. Alia, you are just 12. It's so surprising. And Noreen, you are 17. You guys are such a masterpiece. Your impressive facilitating skills must have triggered many young minds now, and it will keep triggering many other minds in the days to come. AP region actually want to see many young girls and women like you to be involved in the original events. Thanks to you once again. And thanks to all the participants, whoever are in the call today. Your participation means a lot to this program and to the region itself. It is actually a great feeling to have so many young people from different parts of the region joining this call to know more about the psychological first aid, and also to keep yourself so much safe and be aware about the brave space as well. So thank you everyone for such an active participation in QA session and being so patient during the whole call. Thank you once again. So as I mentioned, psychological first aid is something very important, but we rarely talk about it. And today we have heard so much about it, and it's damn important topic to be discussed. So let's have more discussions in the days to come, because many girls and young women are the one who we find suffer much, especially during the pandemics and any kind of disasters. Yeah, at home, we see them more like suffer in terms of health, in terms of the domestic violence and all. So it is the young women and the girls who we find have suffered much during this kind of unusual situations. So this kind of first aid, if we could provide them as early as possible, then the harm on them could be minimized to great extent. So I hope from today's program, our MOs would start to raise awareness of psychological first aid, and we hope to engage more member organizations to discover and understand the importance of psychological first aid and how and where to seek support whenever required. And many MOs are busy developing the safeguarding and child protection policy at the moment. So MOs, whoever have joined here in our call today, or whoever are watching live through the Facebook page of AP region, if you have any questions, or if you feel that you need any kind of assistance while developing the policy, then please feel free to contact your CAT personnel, your CAT mentors. So we are celebrating the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. 5 more days to go to end the 16 days campaign. And we have oranged our region, and the whole world is actually oranged now, because everywhere it's felt important that we need to raise our voice, especially for the young girls and women who are vulnerable during the unusual situations. That's why the whole world is orange, and Asia Pacific region also is orange. So thank you everyone for joining this call. Thank you everyone, whoever have spent days and nights to make this event such a great successful. Thanks to everyone from myself and from the whole Asia Pacific Regional Committee. So I already said 5 more days to end 16 days campaign, and we are not stopping here, of course. So let's stand firm and let's stand together to end the gender-based violence. Thank you everyone once again. Thank you so much. And since we are listening that the new variant of COVID is spreading all around the world so fast, let's take care of ourselves. Let's take care not just of our body, let's take care of our mind as well. Let's take care of our soul, and let's be brave and create the space for ourselves, because your presence is the greatest present to the world. So you are so special. You are so important in everyone's life. So the first thing is you are important for yourself. You are important for your family. You are important for the world. Thank you once again for joining this call. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maya. That was a wonderful statement. I'm so happy to see so many people involved in talking about how great this session was. I really enjoyed it too. I love the deconstruction of the social stigmatization of mental illness. I love how open we are about mental illness and mental health, and our generation will do so well growing up in this environment. I want to say that depression and stress and anxiety, all these things, because they're not physically seen, we don't take them too seriously. But this session gives me hope that more people are aware. So I hope we listen with our eyes and our ears and our heart, and listen to what Pacita has to say. Listen to what everyone here has to ask. And I'm so glad for her information session. You were so eloquent, so well read. Thank you so much, Pacita, for your wonderful session. I loved it so much. And with that, we'll be wrapping up. I would like to ask everyone if we could all take a picture together. I would like to ask one of our volunteers to take a screenshot. If you're not comfortable with being in the picture, I would like to ask you to turn your video off. Otherwise, you can keep your video on. All right. So,
Tammy, would you like to take a picture?
Yep, I'm already taking. So I have 3 more pages. Everybody get ready. One last one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful time in this session.